Hi guys, it's Ms Christel from Central here today, and I have an activity that I think you guys are really gonna like. So today we're gonna be making slime, which is something I know is always a favorite that we used to do at the school. But today I think I actually want to focus on the science behind slime. Like, have you guys ever wondered how slime becomes what it is? I mean, you take glue and an activator and you get slime. Like, what's the chemical process behind that? So before we begin, I think we need to talk about the states of matter. Matter is what makes up everything, like this plate, to the air, to the jacket I'm wearing. So typically when we have matter, we categorize it into one of three things. A solid, like the plate, it doesn't really change that much. Or it could be a liquid like water, something that fills the container of what it fits in. Or we consider it a gas like steam or the air around us. So I want you to think about, as we go through and make slime, I want you guys to think about what you think slime is. Is it a solid? Is it a liquid? Is it a gas? Or does it really not fit into any of those things? I also want to talk about the chemistry behind slime, the chemical reactions that happen when we introduce our ingredients, like the glue and the activator. So let's go over the, what's the word? The things we need, the ingredients for science. So slime is pretty easy to make. All you need is glue. I'm using white school glue, but you can use any kind of liquid glue. I prefer the white glue to the clear glue. There's something about the glue that I just find that white glue just makes better slime, personally. And then you need an activator. I'm going to be using liquid starch. It's my favorite activator to use. But what you can do is at home, if you have like the powdered borax, you can mix that with warm water in order to make an activator. I just find the starch is better because it's pre-made and it just works really well. The next thing you're going to need is something to mix your slime into. I have an old bowl that I washed out. It's an old bowl, so I don't really mind if it gets dirty. And then you're going to need some place to store your slime. A little plastic Ziploc bag works really well. You can also add things like coloring. I'm going to be using my gel food coloring that I have. But if you don't have food coloring at home, watercolor works really well. You just have to add it to like the water, a liquid, and then mix it in. Works really well, just as good as this, I think. I'm also going to be adding some shaving cream to my slime. I got this a while ago for my rain in the jar experiment, and ever since I got it, I have been obsessed about thinking about making a fluffy slime. So this is what I'm going to use with it now. So to start things off, you're going to need to pour your white glue into your mixing bowl. So I've gone ahead and poured my glue into my mixing bowl, but before we move on to our next step, I want to take a minute to kind of look at what we have so far. Going back to talking about our three states of matter, glue is a liquid. As you can see, we've poured it, and what we've poured from this container into here, it's filled the shape of the container, the bowl that it's in. And I can move my mixing stick or my knife through it pretty well. It moves in and it fills in the gap of what I move. So this is how we consider glue a liquid. So the next step that I'm going to be working on is I'm going to add my food coloring to my white glue base. If you're not going to add any coloring or like the shaving cream, you guys can just skip ahead to adding the activator. But this is just a little extra step that I'm going to do. I'm not going to show you guys because it's just adding color and mixing it in. But just so that way you guys know when my glue suddenly turns green, why that happened. So real quick, I'm just doing a quick check-in. I've added my shaving cream to my glue base, and I just want to take a look and ponder what I think it is. Is it still a liquid? Is it a solid? Or is it something kind of different still? I would still consider this a liquid because it's still filling up the shape of the container, even though it's much more fluffy. And I'm able to pass through it with little resistance, much like water. When I put a knife through water, I'm not meeting any resistance like I do here. So moving forward to our next step, we are adding our activator. This is my liquid starch that I've kind of just added to a cup. And if you can kind of see it as it shakes around, it's a liquid, much like the glue was. It's able to very easily fill the container no matter how I do it. So the next step is just to slowly start pouring our activator into our glue base. Now, what happens here is actually very interesting. So as I added my activator, you guys can kind of see how the property of the glue has changed. It's starting to clump together. That's because in the activator, our liquid starch, there is a molecule called boride. And what happens when you add the boride to the glue is the boride molecules attach itself to the glue and allows it to kind of change properties. I'm now able to lift it up with my stick, my knife, just like that. I'm going to add some more here, but that's what's happening when we add our activator. It's changing the property of the glue, allowing it to become firmer, but still malleable, still stretchy. So once you've added enough activator that your slime is kind of lumping together like this in your mixing bowl, you're going to want to start taking it out and mixing it with your hands. So I'm just taking it out of my bowl and I'm going to mix it with my hands. That's why I have a paper plate in front of me. That way I don't ruin my table. I don't get this slime all over my table. Now, if you guys have ever made slime yourselves, whoops, one of the things you may have noticed is that once you start working with your hands, you notice that it becomes really kind of cold. Like this slime, as I'm mixing it, is definitely colder than what the glue, the glue and the activator were. And actually, that's how you know a chemical reaction is happening. Some things get warmer when they have a chemical reaction, like when you boil water, it gets hot. But freezing itself is another chemical reaction. And while this doesn't exactly get frozen, the temperature definitely changes. So I'm just going to be mixing it with my hands now. So here is my end product slime. Now that we have our slime finished, the only thing really to do is just to put it in a container when we're done playing with it. That way it doesn't get hard and dry out. But we actually have another thing that we need to do. Back at the beginning of the video, I asked you guys to think about whether you thought slime was a liquid, a solid, or a gas. Now, because I can see it and I can touch it, I feel it's very confident to say that it's not a gas. So that leaves us with, is it a liquid or a solid? Well, when I pour it into something like my plate, it will, over time, eventually start to take the shape of the inside of the plate, much like a liquid does. But at the same time, I can pick it up with my hands and I can play with it. I can't do this with water, but I can do it with something like a solid. But it's also not super hard. It's able to change its shape, unlike a solid can. So where does that leave us? Well, slime is actually what we call a non-Newtonian fluid. It exists between liquid and solid. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So this piece of slime that I know kids love to make, we make it every year. This is actually a really fascinating science project because it's not something we typically see in nature. It's not something that really happens naturally as something that can be both a solid and a liquid. Anyways, I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you guys learned about slime, the science behind it, and I hope it really got you thinking about something that, you know, we make every year and you guys love to make, love to play with, but again, it's actually a really fascinating science phenomenon. Anyways, I hope you guys had a lot of fun, and I will see you soon. Bye! Ooh, I got slime all over my hands.